So if you're going to be tuning in over on the YouTube side of things here momentarily, I'm not too sure what cut the YouTube stream. I think something in the background may have prematurely cut it off, which is very strange. I've never seen that happen before. Everything is functioning on this computer, which is very bizarre. There may have been some kind of unfortunate crossing of the beams in the background to where the live stream ended. And perhaps somebody was in there and went to end the previous stream and accidentally killed all the streams all at once. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and pace ourselves. We'll start off with the lovely water vapor imagery. And what we have out there right now is still a very, very deep trough extending down over the eastern half of the United States. But if you notice, it's cockeyed more towards the northwest to southeast now. It's taken on what's considered a negative tilt, which means that the cold air wrapping up into the base of the trough is accelerating. It's speeding up, and that's precisely part of the reason why we're actually going to start a warming trend over the next 36 hours. Here we go. We're getting some folks back over on YouTube. Yeah, I think what may have accidentally happened is, as the previous 9 o'clock show was closing out, somebody may have accidentally ended this one as well, because I didn't touch anything, I promise. I was really excited to see everybody. I had a warm, happy Veterans Day greeting set up in place, and now we're going to have to give it a second and see if we can get some folks to rebound back in here. There we go. Now it looks like YouTube's also catching up with itself. So we still have the trough over the eastern half of the country driving down our temperatures, and because of that, we are starting to get very, very cold outside once again, especially in northern Florida. Now, taking a look at the infrared satellite, one thing I want you to notice here is as we go past sunset, watch the timestamp at the top there, beyond 6, 7, 8 p.m., there's a couple different things I want you to look at here, and I'll go ahead and bust out the pen tool so we can draw it in together. We'll go ahead and do some Bob Ross together. Go ahead and highlight the colors and whatnot on there so we can get an idea of what the atmosphere is doing. So we've got a massive high-pressure system that is finally draped overhead between Jacksonville, Orlando, and Mobile. You can see I have the streamlines put on so you can very faintly see it there. You've got that clockwise turning in the flow there. And as a result, if you look below where I have my H and my arrows drawn, you can start to see the land turn a faint shade of blue. I'll take you full screen so you all can get a better view from watching at home. You can see that the terrain starts to change color. That is actually the satellite imagery picking up on just how cold the temperatures are. I'll clear the ink so we can keep on moving. Let's take a look at our current temperatures outside. A couple of us have already fallen below 40 degrees, and this has been happening at a pretty rapid pace. In fact, I would say it's kind of been speeding up as time has gone on. When we started the 9 o'clock show, the Villages and Palm Coast were still flirting with 39, 40 degrees. Now Gainesville sitting at 35 degrees, Ocala at 39, the Villages 38, and then Palm Coast, having dropped below 40, is now sitting at 39. The rest of us are still in the mid to upper 40s, with Cocoa Beach once again being the overachiever, trying to stay as warm as they possibly can. And it makes sense because if you look at the orientation of Brevard County right there, it kind of juts out towards the east, getting a little bit closer to those Gulf Stream waters. That's helping to modify the environment, the local weather in that area. If you'd like to know what the word modification is, I tend to use it a lot during the fall and winter times because that's typically what tends to happen with our high pressure systems as they come down along the backside of a cold front and a low pressure system, driving it down from the south or from the north to the south. It starts to change once it gets out of what's called its source region, where it originates from, and then migrates to a totally different corner of the world. It starts to take on the characteristics that we would typically see in that neck of the woods. Say, for instance, the high pressure that's overhead right now, that actually came from central Canada. Now, as we all know, Canada is pretty much characterized by nothing but tundra-style conditions for the most part, continental, polar, and dry air. It's just dry, fairly arid. They do get some rainstorms and winter storms, but On average, you could say it's a lot more dry than the likes of a Gulf Coast location or the state of Florida surrounded by warmer waters. You take a high pressure from up there and you put it down in the maritime tropical air closer to the Gulf, closer to Florida or the Atlantic, and it starts to adapt. Kind of like our bodies when you go into the gym and work out, you lift weights so your muscles can grow, you get stronger. That's the adaptation process taking place. Same concept here. You take that high pressure, put it from a cold place to a warm place, it's eventually going to get warm and mix out itself. Now, these were the low temperatures that we observed overnight last night into this morning. I'm going to be curious to see if we actually verify or get colder tonight because our forecast lows for this evening continue to trend a little bit cooler, especially for our northwestern counties where a freeze warning is still in effect for Alachua and Marion counties. Now, I hate to say it, but we got to go ahead and jump into our first break very abruptly. I know I spent the first 2 or 3 minutes troubleshooting what the heck happened to my YouTube stream, but we're back, and I will come right back to you after our quick 3-minute intermission, and I will go ahead and kind of pick up the pace, talk a little bit faster so I can get to your questions as well for the third block of the show. So don't go anywhere, folks. I promise I'll be right back, and YouTube will not quit on us this time. And welcome back to News 6 Weather at 9:30. Let's go ahead and take it from the top. while I have the opportunity to do so. It's great to see everybody tonight. Meteorologist David Nazario back at the helm again. I apologize to my News 6 Plus viewers. I know you've already heard the intro, but for our YouTube folks who are now back up and running, I just wanted to say a warm welcome tonight, especially given how cold it is outside. We got to extend the warm greetings as much as we can, and I also want to take a brief moment to wish the happiest of Veterans Day to all of our service members who are watching, whether you be past, present, or even any future service members who will be preparing to raise their right hand and take that oath of enlistment, whether it be tomorrow, a week, 2 weeks, a year, however long from now. It all means the same at the end of the day. We all wear the same uniform and we all serve the same purpose. And I can't thank you all enough for your service, and it's always been a pleasure serving around each and every single one of you. Golding Ferdy, shout out to you over on the YouTube channel as well. I noticed you served in the United States Air Force, and Melissa Riley has some family members who are also in the armed forces. So it's great to have everybody with us tonight. It's always great to develop that camaraderie, brotherly and sisterly love amongst all of our sister services alike. So let's get back to the brief. So these are our forecast lows for tonight, but then we also have a twist coming our way. We've got a really quick rebound that is going to occur between tonight, tomorrow, and then into this weekend. We're right back into the low 80s. I almost said we're back again. I got to stop saying that tonight. I'm just that excited and jazzed to talk to everybody. But as you can see, Central Florida is going to come right back to its senses. We've had this brief cold stint, and then we may not get another one for a little while now, which is why yesterday during our afternoon and early evening newscasts and earlier this afternoon, I touched once again on the fire risk. We did have some red flag warnings out there in effect due to the dry conditions and the gusty conditions provided by that high pressure. Those have since been discontinued, but we do still have a couple of winter weather alerts out there, and I'll take you full screen so we can talk about these together. You can see Alachua County with Gainesville, Marion County, and Ocala, or I should say Ocala in Marion County. We've got those freeze warnings in effect as temperatures are expected to drop well below 32, if not into the upper 20s, and those are your air temperatures. I will go ahead and keep in mind, though, or rather, I want you to keep in mind watching from at home that because our winds are quickly tapering off this evening, these temperatures are not going to feel as blistery or as harsh as they did this morning. I remember I stepped outside before going to the gym in just a t-shirt and shorts, and I'm like, nope, went back inside. I mean, I still went and did my thing, but, you know, it's the wind that gets you. We're not going to have that factor as we go over the next couple of days. With that high pressure overhead, the pressure differences between when that cold front first came through, the leading edge of that polar air mass, up to the core of our high pressure where the coldest temperatures are, even though the temperatures will still drop pretty substantially between now and about 7 a.m., sunrise tomorrow, the winds are not going to be blowing as much because we're not seeing the movement of that cold air. It's pretty much going to go stagnant from here on out until eventually it just washes out altogether. And that's why we have that warming trend coming up next here very soon. And then for our lighter shades of blue, from West Coast Florida through Sumter, Lake, Volusia, and Flagler County, I almost said Palm County. Come on, David, it's not that late tonight. Volusia into Flagler County, we're thinking a frost advisory. Frost advisory was issued by National Weather Service and is valid until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And that's because with that high pressure settling in overhead, it's going to create some sinking motions in the overall three-dimensional atmosphere. And whatever moisture may still be up there is going to settle into the lowest portions of our environment, closer to where we are, if not right at ground level. And as a result, you mix that leftover low-level moisture with freezing temperatures, you got a nice little combination there for some frost, a little bit of glaze out there on the lawns, the plants, and your automobiles. So now let's talk about what's coming up. Let's get you some weather headlines. I didn't do these yesterday, and I do apologize for that, but I love to talk you through the weather headlines because this is kind of the table of contents for what we're tracking here in the Weather Center. Below average, one more day of that before we clear out thanks to that high pressure moving in. The winds are coming down as we speak, and then the warm-up is going to quickly happen as we go through late tomorrow and especially Thursday and Friday. And to tell you the truth, I know it sounds like a lot of lather, rinse, repeat. That's truly because we don't have any major weather players on the immediate horizon. We are still in the hurricane season and the tropics are very quiet. We are not expecting any other substantial frontal systems to come through here or a risk for heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, let alone any strong to severe thunderstorms, because the jet stream's finally going to calm down. If you rewind back to a story I did a few days ago, maybe sometime late last week, about how the West Pacific typhoon action coupled with Category 5 Melissa, how those features helped disrupt the way our jet stream was behaving. That's what created all this wintry chaos for everybody in the eastern half of the U.S. Now that we've seen all that subside and the jet can get back to normal, things are going to return to the status quo that we would typically see here in the month of November as we get ready to round out the month altogether. We're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving, which I honestly can't believe how quick that is approaching. So let's get you on over to the jet stream outlook, or the upper air look, before we wrap up this next block and I open us up to questions. And again, I know that this is very abbreviated. I ran short on time during the A block because of those technical difficulties. Make sure you have your questions ready. If you have any weather or forecast specific questions, I'm happy to answer you once we come back from this next break. But this is what's going to happen. You can see that negatively tilted trough ejecting or moving off the east coast of the U.S. up towards the very easternmost Canada. As that continues to rocket off towards the east, watch what happens with that ridge. This guy right here, the big old ridge that's over the Rockies, the central United States, we're going to continue to see that progress easterly. And as it does so, as we get into the leading edge of that, and eventually that will set itself up directly overhead, we're literally going to see the pattern flip upside down. I'll clear my old ink there and show you where we are now. We've got very broad, almost zonal ridging over the central and eastern half of the United States. And when I say zonal, that means that the jet is flowing pretty good. Think of it like I-4 on a low traffic day. You're smooth sailing. You can push the cruise control and just kind of kick back at the wheel, listen to some good tunes. That's what zonal jet stream flow is like, just peacefully moving west to east. When it's more meridional, like you look back over the western United States, they're going up and down. It slows things down, creates some congestion in the atmosphere, kind of like if you're on I-4 or I-95 or your road of choice, wherever you're tuning in from, and you've got a crash or you've got some backups. You can't throw the cruise control on. You can't really focus on your good music because you're stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. You're moving slowly, if that makes sense. So for us here in the south and east, we're going to be under fairly calm, cool, should say mild conditions for the next 7 to 10 days. All right, with that being said, we're going to rapidly get into another 3-minute break. Again, have your questions ready. I'll go ahead and continue to talk a little bit about the weather and address you all in the chat. News 6 Plus, if you do have any questions, feel free to hop over to the News 6 YouTube channel, drop any questions, comments, or concerns you may have, and I'll get right back to you all after our quick 3-minute intermission. And with that, News 6 weather at 9:30 has hit the home stretch. I hope you've brought your questions because we're going to dig into the last bit of the nitty-gritty I have for you tonight. And we'll touch on the tropics really quick because technically speaking, hurricane season still has about 19 more days. It's running on borrowed time, more or less. So let's go ahead and walk through the temperatures for tomorrow. We'll give you a little bit of a play-by-play on that. So tonight, you can see we are quickly going to descend into near freezing temperatures. And in fact, I think I might want to pull up a different model because this one's definitely not doing too well. If I rewind us back to where we are presently, around 10 o'clock, you can see the model is definitely not capturing what's going on in our northwestern counties. 45 in Gainesville doesn't quite line up too well, nor does 43 in Ocala, considering we're already about maybe 7 to 8 degrees colder than that in real time. That's a process called initializing your computer model. If you compare the valid time to what's happening in real time and you see a big discontinuity like that, you can kind of say, okay, this model's probably not going to do too good. If I can't trust it real time as we fast forward through the forecast, it's probably not going to do very good. But anyways, you kind of get the gist of it. As we start tomorrow morning, we'll do a little bit of basic subtraction for our northwestern viewers. The rest of us, it should remain fairly applicable. So for Gainesville, Ocala, and the villages, we'll go ahead and kind of plug in mentally maybe low to mid 30s in those areas at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then tomorrow afternoon, notice how fast we quickly climb back up into the upper 60s and low 70s for everybody. Gainesville, Ocala coming in around 68 degrees. The greater Orlando area could be sitting somewhere between 70, 71 degrees. And along our east coast, we're going to be in the mid to upper 60s with a touch of additional humidity. Just a touch. We're talking a little whisper of it. Nothing too crazy because we still have that evolving high pressure overhead. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we're really coming back to the Florida standard there, where you can see upper 40s and low 50s. So a little bit on the nippy side as we start your Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But then once again, if you fast forward to the afternoon hours, we're really going to start to see things getting a lot more comfortable by Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. Now, in terms of the tropics, we are still quiet out there. All was quiet on the tropical front. Not expecting any development over the next 7 days, although I will note we've got a pretty nasty flare-up down there happening for our folks in Nicaragua, Honduras, Costa Rica, getting down towards Panama of Central America at the tail end, the very tail end of the front there, draped down all the way into the Western Caribbean. So hopefully we can round out this very bizarre hurricane season with our big finale being Melissa, the Category 5 that it was. And that's about it. Climate Prediction Center updated their graphic today as well. They're not thinking any development out through to the end of the calendar hurricane season. Thanksgiving weather, we may actually be in for another brief cold hit. I say hit, not blast. Models are thinking that leading up to that Thursday, we might have another front coming down, but take that with a massive grain of salt because that is still a ways away. We've got about 2.5 weeks still from Thanksgiving, and models tend to struggle this far out with where our individual weather systems are going to be, let alone what the jet stream is going to be doing. We saw it a lot during hurricane season, so we'll see. Still kind of tough, kind of a toss-up there. Oh, by the way, Mimi Love Good Law, I do appreciate you mentioning earlier. It's good to have Naz back. It's great to be back with you all. I will be hanging up the hat for tonight, though. We're going to go ahead and close out now before I run out of time. We got a hard out before the 10 o'clock show. I will not see you tomorrow, but I should be back in the hot seat with you all once again for your 9:30 news stream or weather stream on Friday. I do believe Jonathan is back, and if it's not Jonathan, then it should be Michelle. But I will double check with the schedule, drop it in the comments on the video or the live stream, or you'll just have to wait in suspense. But have a wonderful night, everybody. Happy Veterans Day to everybody out there once again who has put on the uniform or continues to do so. I hope you had an amazing and blessed day, and we'll talk to you again very soon. But until next time, this is the Digital Weather Center signing out.